welcome to NewsNation, my brothers and sisters, where left and right come to be reasonable. Let us reflect on the reason for the season. We have an unusual overlap this year. Did you know that? Passover and Easter, same period. Passover begins at sundown tomorrow night, lasts until nightfall on April 20th, which is also Easter Sunday. One tells the story of the Exodus, Jews marking doors with lamb's blood, signaling the spirit of death to pass over them. Easter conveys the passion of the Christ, his death and resurrection, manifesting the belief in rebirth and the faith in renewal. Now, no matter your faith or the lack thereof, those messages, they sure resonate right now, don't they? Depending on your politics, your perspective on the president, and your perspective on the markets, it sure does feel to many, many of you as though there is a dark shadow upon us, and there is a growing, almost desperate yearning for renewal. But that's where I end the matching metaphor, because praying for divine intervention is not what it should take to have steady leadership in America. Personally, I want President Trump's efforts to succeed. I want better deals for America, especially those that improve prospects for the middle class. It is way past time they were the focus of our government's intentions. But why do we assume that what this administration is doing has anything to do with that? Because they say so? They say a lot of things that don't make sense or are soon contradicted. It's about bringing back jobs. No. We're going to forget about those tariffs. It's really about refinancing the debt. Yeah, that's what it is. We're going to tank the markets so it's cheaper to refinance. Oh, no. It's about financing tax breaks for the rich. Oh, it's about all of that. And actually, it's about none of that. It's a leverage play. The more the story changes, the less believable it becomes, okay? The administration boasts transparency, okay? Then they allow this guy to be their front man when they know he made up the expert that supposedly endorses his economic theories. Ron Vara. You know what that is? An anagram for his own name, Navarro. He made up the basis of belief in the economic policies that they are now having him front. Preposterous. Once again, any other administration, it would be a death sentence. Now, I get why the president doesn't care about that. He did the same thing when he created a fake PR guy, John Barron or whatever his name was, pitching stories about himself. No wonder, though, when you look at who is putting it forth, no wonder the strategy made so little sense to economists and investors. It's based on nonsense. Consumer confidence recorded its second lowest reading since 1952. Trumpers say, oh, no, forget about that. How about that one day of stock gains? Oh, it was one of the biggest green days since blah, blah, blah. That's because Trump was pushed to relent on some tariffs that had started a fire. He started it. He put a little water on it. You want to celebrate as a historic win after he tanked the market? And it turns out there was no real win, but in fact, a growing loss. So you got to say, no matter what these tariffs eventually make happen that's good, what did they cost us? The bond market is the truth about the markets, okay? Major institutional investors from around the world are clearly losing confidence in the American economy. When the yield goes up on the bonds, that basically means we have to pay people more to get them to invest with us. It makes lending expensive. It makes capital scarce. The administration counters by saying fake news. Look at the hundreds of billions that pharmaceutical companies and other manufacturers are pledging to come back. But how many actually will? And how many are going to run away? Churchill warned that the only thing worse than fighting against your allies is being forced to fight without them. That is the position that the president is threatening to put us in. Now, Trumpers will say no one walks away from America. Then tell me, how do you explain Japan, second largest holder of our paper behind China, by the way, and South Korea having discussions with China, which they haven't done in a very long time. The counter to that? Hey, the president got 75 countries to come to the table with those tariffs. Did he? You mean the 75 countries the president allegedly talked to while in a golf tournament? You buy that? Oh, and by the way, why aren't those countries saying that? It would certainly calm the markets. Why aren't they doing that? And if this is going to work, why is China getting more resistant, not less? And the idea that they need us and we are crippling them, the markets don't reflect that. If everyone's on board, why is the value of the dollar steadily dropping? It's having its worst year since the 2008 Great Recession. Why are other currencies going straight up? Because people are leaving the dollar and finding safety in other currencies. That is the cost of the tariff stunt. The larger question is, even if the tariffs yield new deals, again, what did this force that wouldn't have happened otherwise that is negative? The bond markets, again, structural part of the economy, and they speak to a problem that seems to be getting worse. And now we have questions that many don't want to ask. Why does it seem that some got so rich on this volatility? For instance, how did Newsmax, a struggling Trumper mouthpiece media company, go from a $14 stock to $260 and then crash back down? You don't think people got paid on that deal? What if even part of all these maneuvers, this schizo strategy, is because this isn't really all about deals for us, or not all of us, or even the middle class, but about helping just a select few? Democrats are now threatening to investigate Trump and his team of market manipulation and insider trading. Take a listen.
We need to get to the bottom of the possible stock manipulation that is unfolding before the American people, including what, if any, advanced knowledge did members of the House Republican Conference have of Trump's decision to pause the reckless tariffs that he put into place?
Now, first, Hakeem Jeffries. Don't like that he won't come on the show. Do like what he signals for leadership in the Democratic Party. I think he's got a good future. He should have just said, and that's why I am putting a bill on the floor to allow no member of Congress to trade stocks, because these people are killing it in the market, often with companies that are in bills before them. Are you kidding? How do you expect people to take your scrutiny of Trump seriously when Nancy Pelosi and these others are making a fortune? Both sides, my brother. Now, look, what do I make of this? I'm skeptical of political prosecutions, especially when the Democrats have no committee power. They can't make this happen. And especially when those who do have the power are not going to do anything that's going to piss him off. And especially when the Supreme Court just ruled they think a president has immunity from prosecution for just about anything. So what would be the point of that? And yet, are they really wrong to be asking the questions? The tariff plan seems so random, so much, so fast, with formulas that made no sense in places that made no sense. And yet, look at the facts. On the morning that he paused the tariff, Trump posted, "This is a great time to buy DJT." 2 minutes later, massive spike in traders betting the market will go up over the course of a week. Unusual, because despite Trump's tweet, the markets were still tanking that entire week. But what about insider trading? There were extremely suspicious trades just minutes before Trump announced he was pausing the tariffs. Moments before he announced. You see that circle? You see that circle? 1 p.m., traders start betting big that the market's going to go up by the end of the day. How? How? Geniuses? An extremely risky bet. 1:15, Trump posts he's pausing the tariffs, causing the stocks to skyrocket. Whoever made those bets earned 2,000% in an hour. And look, well, but you don't know that there's any connection. Yeah, I know. But then why did Trump, in the Oval Office, brag that his billionaire friend, Charles Schwab, made a killing on the market the day he paused the tariffs.
Charles Schwab, it's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million.
So there are companies all over this country, okay, that are dying because they can't get their goods out of China, just like Trump makes all his crap in China, by the way. They are dying. The tariffs that were put in place are crushing these companies, okay? All over this country, small businesses, the engine of this economy, are getting crushed. But Schwab, look, I'm as exhausted as you by political investigations. And I've reported again, members of Congress should not be able to invest in stock, period. But this smells bad. Two wrongs make neither side right. Both sides are trying to convince you they are fighting the good fight, and they are not. Just moments ago, former President Joe Biden delivered his first speech in public since leaving the White House. My reaction? Why? What did this accomplish? He sounded fine. I'm sure the fringe and MAGA land is going to say it was AI or that, look, he's obviously brain dead. I don't buy it, but here's his message.
Fewer than 100 days, this new administration has made done so much damage and so much destruction. They've taken a hatchet to the Social Security Administration. Why are these guys taking aim at Social Security now? Well, they're following that old line from tech startups. The quote is, move fast, break things. My friend Governor O'Malley knows what they're really up to. He says, and I love his quote, they want to wreck it so they can rob it.
Look, for me, former President Biden isn't the issue. It is the lack of the Democrats having anyone else that is the issue, as well as the proposition he's trying to sell you that Trump wants to cut Social Security benefits. Says who? Cutting benefits would be politically perilous, and Trump knows it. Democrats, there are plenty of real problems with Trump's actions so far. Why make one up that hasn't happened? Has Trump messed with the program wrongly? Yes. The BS about millions of people over the age of 100 getting benefits. It's BS. Saying seniors and disabled people could no longer verify their identity over the phone was dumb. And when they were flooded with hate and realized that 40% of claims happen over the phone, they reversed course. Okay, that's Trump. All right, everything's a nail and he's a hammer. Doesn't always work out. Declaring migrants who are legally granted asylum as dead because they supposedly committed crimes or are on terror watch lists. You just don't want them to get the benefits. I get it, but it's illegal. They also declared some kids as dead in that rush to punish migrants and made them lose needed benefits. Haste makes waste. And no, this is not a one-off, it's a pattern, okay? Musk called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. It isn't. It's not a Ponzi scheme by definition, and it is a fundamental aspect of the safety net that makes America great. And then he stumbled on a list of migrants who were assigned Social Security numbers because they were authorized to work in the U.S., and he claimed they were receiving max pay and benefits despite no setting like that ever existing at the program. Look, I know MAGA folk keep telling you otherwise. Illegal immigrants cannot receive Social Security benefits, okay? Illegal immigrants can't. In fact, they contribute over $20 billion a year to Social Security and get no benefits. I don't have a problem with that either, but that's the fact. The truth, some immigrants, not illegal immigrants, some immigrants who are here legally and authorized to work here legally can eventually qualify to receive Social Security benefits, but the process can take up to a decade of working in the U.S. to receive benefits. It's an eventual thing, okay? They're getting it wrong. They're doing it on purpose. The point is, the truth is enough. You want to go after the administration for how they're painting Social Security in a false light? Fine. But we don't know of any plan to cut benefits. So don't trot out the ultimate senior citizen to say otherwise. Why? Because This makes Democrats no better than what they accuse MAGA of. And you're wasting the chance to have better ideas for the program. Like what? Raise the cap on wages that get taxed for Social Security, like you did for Medicare. You do that, there's no more issue for a generation. Democrats, be in the business of better, not just who and what is worse. Now to the other truth abuse. Here's the reality. President Trump was right to criticize what was happening during the Biden administration on the border. He was right to want to stop the flow of illegal entrants. He was right to largely stop it. Good for him. He is right to want to remove dangerous people from America. In fact, that is an unqualified good, period. But, how you do things in America matters. In fact, I would argue to you, it is all that matters. And you are being sold BS about this Garcia guy, okay? For me, he's not the issue. Due process is. John Adams. America should be a government of laws, not of men. Why? Because the rules have to matter most here, not personal preferences, not politics, not partisan allegiances. Justice Brandeis taught us the two most important words in the law are due process. It's what distinguishes America and makes her great. Just because you like the end result does not mean you can get to it by any means necessary. Again, not my idea. Benjamin Franklin. It is better to let 100 guilty men get away than let one man suffer. Why? Because that is the line, okay? That is the line between law and order and democracy to something decidedly less. My concern is that Trump is driving at something decidedly less. Case in point, Kilmer Garcia. If you're on Twitter or Fox or any of the MAGA media, you would think this Garcia guy is a known terrorist and gangbanger who was caught and returned to where he belongs, and the Democrats want him back. Great for Twitter, but totally twisted. Here are the facts. Garcia entered the U.S. from El Salvador as a teen in 2011 illegally. He was here for years, living illegally, working illegally for years. No known criminal record, okay? Is that unusual for a gangbanger? Kind of, but it could go either way. 2019, he's arrested at a Home Depot parking lot, looking for work. Allegedly, an informant told ICE that Garcia was a member of MS-13, the gang. The right points to a judge's order in a 2019 bond hearing after he was detained, saying it proves he's a gangbanger. Says it right in there. Look, I can highlight it. There was no hearing on the allegation. The judge in the bond hearing just took the government's word for it. When the government had to prove it, what happened? The government lost the case and didn't appeal. Did you know that? Garcia applied for asylum, didn't get it. But the judge did grant him a legal status called withholding of removal. What does that mean? It was from 1980. It was an extension of the Immigration Naturalization Act to get in sync with international law. Reagan did it. The judge, this is the meaning of the order. He did not find the government's evidence that Garcia was a gangbanger compelling. They found, the judge, that Garcia had a reasonable fear that gangs would harm him if he was returned, and decided that he was not a danger to the public, so he was allowed to stay and work. I am not referring to Garcia as the Maryland man, okay? He is from El Salvador. He came here illegally, period. You don't have to like how he came here. You don't have to like him. I'm not saying he's a good guy. I have no idea. Maybe a bad guy. I don't know. But he is here legally, okay? Now, is it a weird legal kind of limbo? Yeah, but he's here legally. The Trump team knew about this order and deported him anyway. That is the truth. They admitted it. They call it a mistake. Now they don't want to correct it. If they think that Garcia is a gangbanger, they should prove it in court and kick him out. They did not do that, and that is un-American. It's not me saying it. It's the Supreme Court saying it, the court that Trump picked the majority of, 9-0. Do you know how rare that is with this court? Now, why his guys are saying they won, I don't know. My best guess is Stephen Miller thinks you're an idiot, that he thinks you guys are a bunch of lemmings and you'll believe whatever they say. The fact is his own people admit they deported the guy wrongly. Now, look, I get the optics. Who wants to argue in favor of bringing the gangbanger back? Okay? Hey, but you know what? That's the law. And either you respect it or you are lawless. I get that politically you got the high ground. I'm sure I'm getting my butt kicked on MAGA media right now. I'm sure. That's easy. You want it easy, you don't get a democracy. Okay? You want it easy, you don't have law and order. You got to choose your hard in America. It's hard to respect due process, but it gets really hard if you don't. And if you don't respect the law, you deserve no respect. Joining me now, a man who's getting a lot of shine, getting a lot of hype, said the other day he feels he may have no choice but to seriously consider a run for president of these United States. Has he got an American flag on tonight? It's always a good tell. No, not tonight. No. Okay. Stephen A. Smith from ESPN, and of course, the eponymous show, the Stephen A. Smith Show, very good on digital media. It's good to see you, my brother. What did you think of President Biden making his witness and the message that they are coming for your Social Security?
Waste of time. Fell on deaf ears. I watched about 5 minutes of it. I didn't really have much interest in it because he's no longer the president. When he was the president, there were some things that he did, like opening the borders, which were horrendous and obviously debilitating to this nation. And because of it, that accentuated the point that he needed to go. And once he saw that, the man that once promised to be a transitional president decided that he wanted to stay and ultimately had to be forced out. And so when those kind of things happen, clearly a lot of what you have to say is falling on deaf ears, particularly when all you're doing is regurgitating things that you said in the past, not just when you were president, but when you were a candidate for the presidency before you ultimately won the election in 2020. It's not to say that he's completely right or wrong. Is to simply say, unfortunately, because of the things that have transpired over the last several years, a lot of people weren't too interested in hearing from him. Think about it. Not even the Democrats themselves appeared happy that he was coming out and giving some kind of speech, rather. There were a plethora of them asking the question, why, for what possible purpose did it serve? And certainly they're asking themselves now after seeing him speak.
What do you think about the premise that Social Security is vulnerable here? President Trump says when asked, no, I'm not going to change the benefit structure there. They are doing other things that you could argue are messing with the efficiencies at Social Security, even though they say they're doing it to make it more efficient. What's your take?
It's all relevant, and here's the reason why it's relevant. Just because it's relevant, I don't want that to be interpreted as me saying he's right when he says that, because there's no evidence right now that that's what President Trump is doing. But the fact is that Trump operates under his own rules. He operates under fear. He kind of invokes it. He kind of pushes for it. He wants you to guess at what he's doing. He wants you to fear what he may do. And so when folks speculate about the kind of problems that he'll ultimately do to America, whether it's Social Security or anything else, you're going to have an abundance of Americans, millions of Americans, particularly and specifically on the left, who are going to believe the word possible applies here. And anytime you're able to apply the word possible to something involving Donald Trump, there are going to be those who support him, and there are going to be those who are vehemently against him, which means polarization continues to grow and grow and fester. And when that happens, that's what leads to the kind of problems that you're talking about. That's what leads to people trolling you on social media, attacking me, going after everybody that they can find that doesn't agree with every single syllable they utter or every little feeling that they have. This is the kind of climate that we're living in, and we're desperate to have people from both the left and the right pulled to the center, because we call it the center. We call it centrist, when in fact it's simply asking folks to engage in a level of common sense and decorum, because that seems to be absent from our politics these days, along with the constituency that follows whatever particular politics you like.
Left and right must be reasonable. It is not easy to argue in favor of a guy who may be an MS-13 gang member, but what does it mean when the Supreme Court says 9-0, that, no, you got to respect that order from that immigration judge. That guy's here legally. You can't deport him. And Trump goes,
That's a big problem. And here's the reason why. Because of the 6-3 majority that you highlighted, he invoked, obviously, Kavanaugh and Barrett, and Gorsuch. I mean, you look at these justices in the Supreme Court, these are people that Trump put there. And you've got a 6-3 majority, a conservative majority in the United States Supreme Court that unanimously votes 9-0 that this individual is here in this country legally, and he's not somebody that should be deported, and you ignored it anyway. And then when he's gone, you say that you don't have the ability to get him back. So let me get this straight. You can stop the war between Ukraine and Russia. You can fix the problem between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip and beyond. You can fix these plethora of problems in a snap, according to him during the campaign and the things that he said on numerous occasions. But you mistakenly, openly acknowledged it was a mistake, that you sent this individual to El Salvador, and not only are you unable to get him back, but the leader of El Salvador is sitting right next to you, to your right, and telling the folks to their face that, no, you can't get him back, and there's absolutely positively nothing that you can do. I find that very, very difficult to believe. I think it is something that the president could do if he truly, truly cared to do so. And he's just snubbing his nose at the United States Supreme Court. And if that's something that he's willing to do now, God help us all, what he may be willing to do in the future if he gets away with it.
The counter is, no. He's only doing this, Stephen A., because this guy's a bum who shouldn't be in this country anyway. He wouldn't violate due process. He wouldn't ignore the court if it mattered. What's the problem with that kind of rationale?
The problem with that kind of rationale is that's an excuse that you can easily surmise and come up with for any citizen that's out there. I mean, I understand that this individual was here legally after arriving illegally, but the bottom line is the Supreme Court favored him staying here, and he's still gone, and you're saying that you can't get him back. If that's something that you can do, you can take an act, and the ramifications and repercussions are not something that you have to feel, then again, now all of a sudden, things like words like autocracy and dictatorships all of a sudden come to the forefront, because people are going to look at that and saying the rule of law, which we live on, which we pride ourselves in living on, is something that's not applicable to you. And if that happens, we've got ourselves a big time problem. And it's not just with him. It's with the GOP in the House and the Senate. It's with officials who work in the cabinet under him. It's American citizens, a constituency. It's just like when they were talking about the 22nd Amendment and joking about circumventing that. Do we anticipate that's going to happen? Of course we don't. But the nerve, the gall for them to even open their mouth and intimate it, it's wrong, because it's showing that you're willing to play around with the rule of law and even the Constitution of the United States at your discretion. And when something like that happens and they're not universally checked, you know we've got ourselves a problem, because too many people are thinking about themselves and their own hide instead of thinking about what's in the best interest of the country. That's a problem.
Stephen A. Smith, what is the chance that this weekend, as we celebrate the highest of Christian holidays, rebirth and renewal, there will be video of Stephen A. Smith going and attending Mass, shaking people's hands, holding a baby, putting it back in the mother's arms, walking around and saying, I love America, I love Jesus?
Zero. Because I've got NBA duties for ESPN.
0%.
I have NBA duties for ESPN, my day job, which I happen to love very, very much, by the way. The NBA playoffs are about to begin. I have obligations, but I am always happy when America is happy. That much I will tell you. Anytime I can put a smile on people's face, it's something I'm happy to do.
Now, have you noticed that you've been talking like this more often? You see this gesture that I'm doing? It is not what a sports commentator does. Sports commentators don't do this. I'm just saying, Stephen A., I'm watching you. I'm watching you, Stephen A. Smith.
Look, I have fun with it, but it's gotten serious only from the standpoint that there are a lot of people in my face saying, at least show the respect to people who support you and believe in you and believe that you're so good for this country to at least leave the door open. I've just signed a new contract that I'm very, very happy with. I have a day job that I'm very, very happy with. I've got a production company. I've got a lot of things that I'm doing. I show up on your show practically every week. I love my life and what I'm doing. There's no reason for me to be an elected official, but it's still bad. It's very, very bad, and something has to be done, and you're just praying that the Democratic Party will step up and find a viable candidate to compete with the right, because the reality is, even though you and I both know individuals on the left who are incredibly gifted and could do a lot of good things for this country, the fact of the matter is, are they resonating nationally? The answer at this particular juncture is no. And because it's a no, you're desperate for somebody to step up and take the bull by the horn. So God forbid somebody like me doesn't have to.
Stephen A. Smith, always a pleasure. Rebirth and renewal, my brother. A happy Easter to you and the family. I'll talk to you before that. Take care. Let's get after some matters of fact, okay? We're losing the plot again, I fear. Or maybe I just am. So maybe this reset's just for me. If this doesn't apply to you, fine. I am not one who is hoping that America's president fails to improve our economic condition. I don't even name the president in that comment. Why? That's the point. This isn't about Trump. It's about us. It's about our country, right? Our mutual benefit. Who doesn't want to see more and higher paying jobs? Jobs that meet the needs of the new economy. Who doesn't want us to make things here that enhance our national security? We all want America to have fair trade deals or better deals, right? And we all get that change takes time, okay? Shouldn't we all be able to agree on all of those things? Now, here's, where you're like, yeah, but, yeah, there's a but. Wanting all of those things and respecting that this administration is saying, at least, that they want to help the middle class at home and abroad, that deserves respect. That is a proper ambition. However, none of what I just said means that we have to accept blindly whatever is said and done by this administration in the alleged furtherance of those goals. Meaning, they don't get to say, hold on. We're trying to do the right thing here. Hold on. No. It depends what you do, especially when what they say and what they do seem to work against these stated goals. Intentions matter, of course, but so does strategy, tactics, and the facts. For example, I'm not going to celebrate the stock market's gains today. First of all, the market was barely up 1% in most of the different indices, and that comeback was spurred by this administration backing off widely condemned tornadoes of tariffs, okay? You do not get credit with me for putting out a fire that you lit on purpose, okay? Arguably arson. Now, I may have a better way along those lines of metaphor to describe the problem that we're living right now. So I'm at this first responder training session, doing nothing because I don't know what I'm doing, and I was basically scared the whole time. But watching the other people actually do the job, I heard this instructor say, and it really hit home. So the team was very aggressive. They went into this burning structure, totally scary, right? And the instructor said, I like that aggression. The aggression was good. You guys had the desire to be where you needed to be. But what about this part? How did you assess what had caused this fire and whether that cause had started fires elsewhere that would allow them to know what it actually takes to put down the flames and vent the structure so that you could see again and you could get to where the rescue may be, right? Because if you do it the wrong way and you vent at the wrong time, you make the fire much bigger. And then you can't see anything and you can't rescue anybody and everybody has a problem getting out alive. You can't just do and then think, okay? It's not ready, fire, aim, okay? That's what these tariffs seem like. Trump and co. go rushing in, bigger and deeper than we've ever seen before, as if that distinction alone makes it a positive difference. But since then, what have we seen? Nothing but pullbacks, mixed explanations, full celebrations of things that don't deserve celebration, all aggression, no real plan. The stock market is the least of the current conflagration of concern. The haphazard nature of Trump's tariff tango has created uncertainty. That is a loaded word in investing. Uncertainty about the safety and profitability of the American marketplace for investors and corporations at home and abroad. These are facts. Hence the bond market fluctuations, which threaten to destabilize a fundamental aspect of our economy. Bonds getting hinky is not the same as stocks doing that. Now, the pushback is going to be, well, someone had to do something. Countries have been tariffing America to death, and no one has been doing it worse than China. That's why we have these massive trade deficits. Okay, first, fact, we do not have trade deficits even with China, especially with China, because of tariffs. That's a fact. We have trade deficits because we spend more than we make and more than we save. Oh, you're talking semantics now, tomato, tomato. No, I'm not. You can see this as a sign of domestic prosperity, okay? Or being too consumer-oriented or not saving much, but it's not necessarily a sign of bad trade deals. Now, you want to focus on China? Fine. They're proof of this proposition. Look at this and see where the trade deficit started with China. The graph tells the story, okay? We had a trade deficit before any tariffing went on. Why? Because the deficit came after what? When China was admitted to the WTO, the World Trade Organization. And in fact, when they were, one of the conditions was they had to reduce their tariffs on us. So the deficit came not from tariffs, therefore, but from the fact that the Chinese don't consume the way Americans do for various reasons. And. Because once they got into the WTO, more U.S. manufacturers offshored to China and started flooding the United States with cheap goods. So our trade deficit grew as the tariffs declined. Fact. It was the expansion of manufacturing in China that caused the trade deficit, not tariffs. Trump knows all this. How? Why do you think he produces so much of his stuff in China, including thousands of his God Bless the USA Bibles that he hawked during the campaign? He can deny it, but it's a matter of fact. And facts have to matter if you want to have any chance of getting anything better than this crap that we're living through right now. So Trump keeps saying, look, you got to give me time. Fair. Nothing happens fast, okay? You want to see benefit? Fine. But here's the problem, okay? It may take a lot of time for what Trump is doing to pay off for us, but it has taken no time for it to hurt us. And I'm not just talking about the stock market, not even the bond market. I'm talking about China, okay? Our biggest, most dangerous adversary on the planet. They just made a couple of big moves, okay? Now, you're not going to hear a lot about it, certainly not on, MAGA TV over at Fox or on Newsmax, all right? They just acted against us. They didn't put in reciprocal tariffs. You know what they put in? Restrictions. You know what the difference is? A tariff goes to their consumers and what they have to pay, right? Not a restriction. A restriction means that they limit the goods and nature of goods that are allowed to come into America, suspending their rare earth exports, which are crucial for building U.S. weapons, cars, smartphones, and medical equipment. That means they're not punishing their own consumers. They're just punishing us by not denying us access to what they make and what we need. And perhaps the biggest indication that what I'm suggesting to you is not merely my opinion, but a quickly developing consensus. We see a lot of our allies and trading partners echoing the same understanding through their actions. Why? Look, even if America is China's major single export partner, it's still less than 20% of all Chinese exports. That leaves a lot of other money on the table. And guess what's happening? You want to see what result Trump's tariffs have had? Look at what our partners are doing. You know what they're doing? Meeting with China. That's what China's doing. See, we just acted. America just went hard. This is what you get, okay? They're not. They're seeing what can be done with others. And I'm talking real allies. The European Union, Japan, South Korea. Just today, China met with and signed various, literally dozens of new agreements with Vietnam. Who cares? Vietnam is one of the biggest producers of smartphones and sneakers for us. Will they continue to be? The problem here is that while Trump is hoping aggression pays off, China is taking real steps to improve their position by doing what Trump refuses to do, meeting first. It's a frightening reminder of Churchill's caution to America during World War II. Do you remember it? The only thing worse than fighting against your friends is fighting without them. Now, the other counter is, hold on. There have been benefits from this. Countries want to come to the table. I don't know that that's true. I know they say it. I don't know that it's true. The other counter is, well, tariffs must be working because businesses are saying they're going to bring production back here. Maybe. Some of the examples were decisions that had been made before the tariffs. And even the most recent move, which is a big deal, okay? NVIDIA, the tech company, saying it's going to invest $500 billion into American infrastructure, that's going to take time. And that plan may be compromised by the fact that the company's stock is taking a beating, and that's where they're going to get the money to invest, right? More importantly, Trump's aggression has led to a major domestic regression and talk of hastening the onset of a recession. Oil and gas companies are meeting. They backed Trump. They raised money. Now they're saying, hey, let's scale back so that the price of oil, it doesn't fall like this. Let's scale back, right? Supply and demand. Even though the latest inflation numbers didn't go up as much as expected, surveys show what? More of us than at any time in recent history are worried about inflation, are worried about unemployment. This means Americans will soon what? Stop spending, which will cause what? Businesses to pull back from investing, and then what happens? The economy contracts. Then, because we're dealing with Trump and he's not always above board with his motivations, you got to look at a couple of the factors going on here about why he would do things so chaotically, okay? You can bet whatever you're not willing to put into the market right now that he's going to say, oh yeah, I get it, that domestically we're worried about some things. Tax cuts are the answer. Remember that. He's going to pitch tax cuts as the answer to everything that his tariffs are doing to the domestic market, okay? Those cuts will not be a complete fix, and they better be geared towards the middle class and not the rich like they were last time. The rich don't get hurt by tariffs the way everybody else does, but they do benefit from Trump's tax cuts more than everybody else. That's doing the people who are supposed to matter most double dirty. And then you got to look at who Trump has decided to spare from the tariffs. One study showed that during his first term, companies that donated to him were far more likely to secure tariff exemptions. And companies that donated to Democrats were more likely to get the You can argue that that was then, this is now. But look at what just happened. Today, Trump said he's willing to give an exemption to American car manufacturers who are about to face a 25% tariff on parts from Canada and Mexico. Why? I thought that's what you needed to do to bring it back here. Why? Is it because Ford, GM, and Stellantis all donated to the inauguration fund? Last week, Trump announced what? Smartphones made in China? We're going to wait. And then Lutnick came out and said, no, we're not waiting. They're going to happen. They're just not happening now. So then you are waiting. Why? Is it because Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, personally gave Trump $1 million for the inauguration? Look, aggression is good. If what? If the actions that you take aggressively follow a sound strategy. Do we know that we have one? We've heard a lot about what they want to happen, but we have an understanding of how? No, it keeps changing in ways that haven't made anything better yet. We should all have the same goals. I know I do, and I do not want America's president to fail for the middle class and the working class. I don't, okay? And if you want me to, that's your problem. My problem is I'm not going to accept whatever is done because the ambition is a virtue. Trump chose to be a hammer and treat all of our trading partners and China as a bunch of nails. It remains to be seen whether he is building anything or just setting us up to get hammered. Let's discuss the state of play, okay? One concern is, how are members of Congress doing during this little market roiling? Remember, they can trade. That's James Kardatsky. He's the CEO of Quiver Quantitative. I keep telling you, look at Quiver Quantitative and you will see how members of Congress trade, and a lot of them are killing it. And I also wanted to bring in my friend John McNiff, founder and chief investment officer of Modem Capital. Why? Because I'm calling him every day and saying, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? So he might as well just tell you directly. Gentlemen, thank you both. First, James, give me the headline. They've been trading during this period, right? They weren't smart enough to hold off. So what do you know about what you flagged that people should be aware of?
Yeah, I'll say that lately we've already been seeing trades coming in that took place around the tariff period that have been very suspicious. As we discussed last time I was on the show, there is a 45-day reporting period before members of Congress have to disclose new trades. So we expect that a lot of trades are still going to be reported in the coming weeks. But even in the next few, last few days, we've seen trades from Marjorie Taylor Greene coming in, where she bought Dollar General shortly before the tariffs were announced. Dollar General is one of the few stocks that really performed well after the tariffs were announced. And then right at the peak of the dip, she bought into Apple. She bought into these other companies just before the tariff rollback started happening. She's benefited very greatly from both of those moves. So if I had to point to one headline, I'd say definitely Marjorie Taylor Greene so far, but there's still, a lot of time left for other members of Congress to report trades that were made in these last few weeks. So we fully expect there's going to be other members too who report similarly fishy trades.
Well, James, first of all, don't let me forget, okay, 40 days from now. Come back to me and be like, hey, we got those trade notices in now, and now I have more information. People will forget. I won't, especially if you remind me. And is it true that she was trading with the treasuries also, somewhere between 100 and 500 grand, just before Trump's tariffs? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, she's trading both treasuries and then also several of these individual equity names as well.
That's why they want to investigate. But remember, the Democrats... Oh, I'm sorry. Was I boring you? Is there something that you felt you had to say right in the middle of what I was saying?
I have a question for
Please
James.
go ahead.
James,
Please go ahead. Please. I'm sorry. I'm even here.
In a prior life of mine, I worked in investment bank as a fixed income trader. I had to put in forms to get approval before I could do any transaction in my private accounts. And then I had to hold them for 30, 60, 90 days. Do the members of Congress have any of those restrictions before they do a transaction? Back to you, Chris.
They don't. No. It really is kind of ridiculous to compare and contrast what's required of members of Congress, which honestly should be one of the highest standards that I feel like we hold anyone to. If someone's taking that office, they're really making a commitment to put their own interests aside and be serving their constituents, be serving the country. And even when you compare that to, like you mentioned, people who are insiders at corporations, people who are working in investment banking, we don't even require the same of our members of Congress as we do of someone who's an analyst at Goldman, an analyst at one of these investment banks. There's just really this big discrepancy, and it doesn't make a lot of sense why that's the case.
Anything else?
No. Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd add is, we talked about...
No, not you, James. Go ahead, James. What else?
Oh, I was just going to say, we talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but really this is a problem on both sides of the aisle. Pelosi, obviously, Nancy Pelosi has been the big, poster child, you might say, for congressional stock trading for a long time. But even recently, there's been members of Congress on the Democrat side who had suspicious trades around the tariffs as well. So I'd say, it's really hard, I think, right now for either party to really take a moral high ground and act like, they're the only ones who, are perfect and, morally straight in this. I think really both parties need to look inwards and say, okay, how can we do a better job of, making sure our members are not acting in these ways and, holding them from trading.
This is an easy one. Sometimes it's complicated. No one in Congress should be able to trade stocks, period. Forget about the reporting, forget about the hold, forget about all of that. If you want to serve the public, serve the public. But of course, Nancy Pelosi has a complete defense. Her husband does the trading. She doesn't have any idea what he does with the money. The fact that he bought a stock that was in a bill right before her committee, just a coincidence, that totally passes the smell test about as well as McNiff does after a TV appearance because he gets very flustered. Now, let me ask you this, John. Why is it that China putting on a restriction is a dangerous move for us and an indication of how smart they can be?
As we've talked about in the past, tariffs are harmful. So as you said in your opening monologue, when we put out our tariffs, they're harmful to the U.S. consumer. They're harmful to U.S. corporations and our economy by raising the prices of of goods on both the supply chain and in our pocketbooks. Reciprocal tariffs do the same thing, but on the other side. Okay. We're talking about, playing chess here and what moves and maneuvers we have. China has a monopoly, essentially, on rare earth minerals and rare earth minerals, excuse me. By doing what they're doing, they have made a move that benefits their companies, their exporters, increasing their profitabilities, and directly hurts the U.S. We need those products for our supply chains. It will increase the cost to us, and it's a direct hit. It also sends a message to other countries. And there's another thing that's going on out there, and I need my glasses to get this one right, but it's the ACI, and you're going to start to hear about this. And this is the anti-coercion instrument for the EU. And it's a very similar tool away from tariffs that China just did. And the way this tool worked, it equips the EU with a direct tool to counter third country economic coercion by imposing targeted response measures. What does that mean? Okay, the US has property rights. They can now remove restrictions associated with our property rights. Who does that hurt? Microsoft, Netflix. Second thing they can do, restrict market access to US firms like our banks, our credit agencies, other financial services. And these are all areas which we are very strong in, and they would allow their companies to make gains and reduce us. So again, they're not tariffs, they're chess pieces that they can play. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this talk from other countries.
So this weekend, scrubbing all the foreign reports, it seemed to suggest that Trump's, if you want to chalk it up to personality or tactics, I guess that's subjective, but that other countries are taking this moment to meet with China when they haven't really done so directly before. What does that mean to the overall picture, John? And then I'll let you guys go.
So again, you had the Prime Minister of Spain go directly to China to meet with President Xi. And in July, the EU and China are now scheduling a trade summit. So you're allowing, when you do these type of harmful acts to overall trade, you're allowing other people on the chessboard to make moves around the sides of you. And that's what you're starting to see. So all those things are concerns and things to watch as we move forward. And hopefully, we get some resolution, because to me, these tariffs, it's a tool, but it's a blunt tool. It's like when you invite your plumber to come over to fix a sink, he shows up with a sledgehammer. You say, you don't have any tools in the tool belt? Like, that's what you bring to fix the sink? Well, yeah, it's going to solve the problem that your sink doesn't work, but it's going to cause a lot of other damage.
My producer, Ben, just said, so basically they're burning down the house to cook a steak. That's terrible, because we're the steak, but funny. James Kardatsky, thank you very much. Please, I'll talk to you before, but keep us honest about this 40-day. They have a 45-day reporting. Let's know. And John, you're not a correspondent. Don't say back to me. Never say back to me again. All right? You don't get to say back to me. All right?
Over and
it's
out.
Always me. It's always me. It's
what
my
about
show.
over? Can I say over and out?
No over and out. No over and out. No, you can't say that. Don't say that ever again. It's very bad what you just said. It's just me. All right? You just stay over there all red and flushed for whatever reason.
Let's
all right,
get after
4 minutes and 35 seconds. No, listen. He's done. Get him off. Get him off. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Listen, those are the guys who are doing the job for real, not to just talk about it on TV. That's why you can value the information. Harvard University says, Trump, you don't get to tell us what to do. Could cost them billions. The Ivy League school says it won't give in to what the administration is demanding, which is to eliminate DEI programs, ban masks at campus protests, not like COVID masks, but like I can't see your face masks, and enact merit-based hiring and admissions reforms, which the Trump administration says is, quote, more committed to activism than scholarship. Trump immediately took to Truth Social because he loves this fight and threatened further. Perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status. Blah, 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 blah. Let's bring in Geraldo Rivera. What is your message for Harvard, my handsome friend?
Remember Voltaire, I do not agree with a word of what you say, but I will fight to the death your right to say it. If you can't have free speech on a university campus, if a university can't be in charge of what is, what its rules are, then what is a university? Why is a university special? And why have all of the? I have a Jewish, beautiful daughter at a major university who was very shocked and assailed when this scandal first broke last semester, and there were anti-Semitic protests on her campus and many, many others. It is horrible. You single out these kids. They have to be protected. You have to be vigilant against anti-Semitism, but you cannot allow your fear of what could be said to change the rules, to say that, no, Harvard doesn't get to say what happens within the gates of Harvard. Donald Trump does, on who gets hired, who gets to teach, who gets admitted to the school, what they get to learn. That has to be Harvard's decision, not Donald Trump's. And when he threatens the federal stipends for research, cancer research, and so forth, I mean, shame on him, Chris.
But why are they tax exempt? You know, when you look at how much they cost and how much more they are than the rate of inflation and how their endowment has gone up just as much as their cost structure has, why are they tax exempt in the first place?
Well, you know, maybe that's a question for Doge or, you know, Musk and smarter minds than mine. I don't know, but you could make an argument that why have any tax-exempt organizations? Why have any not-for-profits
I'm good with charities.
I can deduct?
I'm good with charities. I'm good with NGOs.
But how do you know what's a charity and what's a propaganda?
Well, Harvard's not a charity.
I don't know.
Harvard's not a charity.
Harvard is not a But most of what Harvard gets, interesting that you bring that up, the $2 billion plus, is for research. And Harvard has so many patents. They've done so much great cancer research and so forth. You've got to encourage the intellectual pursuit of knowledge. There have to be places where you have nothing but people looking for the next big thing. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people, you know, getting rich on something they invent. Whether it's Facebook, didn't that come from the Harvard campus? You know, just kidding around, and then all of a sudden it became a monster company. That's good. Those things are good. That's free enterprise. And I think that you know, who gets into a university has to be the university's decision, not Donald Trump's. Who gets to teach them has to be the university's decision, not Stephen Miller's decision. And you know what they get to learn. I think that you've got to stay away from the messing with the First Amendment. That's more important than almost anything.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to News Nation. Everybody's mad as hell, right? At least online. And often, I don't think they even know why. They just know that they're being told to be, right? Well, I'll give you two reasons to really be mad if you want to be. Two, that we are getting screwed over money about, okay? One is a way where you have some control. One is where you don't, okay? Let's start with where you don't have control. Cable prices. I was on a call for over an hour today with Optimum Cable, just trying to get them to cancel services I never asked for. I'm telling you, it would be funny if I were making it up, but I'm telling you it was over an hour, okay? And you already know the story. You've been here, okay? But you should have heard my 15-year-old cracking up as I was unable to get this guy who wouldn't give me his full name, who wouldn't tell me where he was, who I could barely understand. There's no way he was in America. Heavy Southeast Asian accent. Some guy screaming in the background, all this applause. I can only imagine that it was from someone being upsold a package that they didn't need and just capitulating, okay? So all I was saying was cancel the service, cancel the service. And the guy's like, oh, no, yeah, okay, I can help you. I can help you. Good, cancel it. Okay, please hold. Minutes go by, the crazy music comes back. One last question. You know that you really could get a better deal if you just, I don't want it, Lenny. That's what he told me his name was. Cancel it. Okay, but you really could, I don't want it. I don't want it. And all I wanted to do was hang up. But if I hang up, what happens? I'm going to keep paying, right? Because he wouldn't cancel it. I tell the guy, I'm a journalist. I'm an attorney. I have a national news program. Okay, please hold. I had no control, right? I can't get internet where I live without Optimum. Maddening. You know that feeling, right? Like you just got to give in. But there's another kind of money mischief that we technically can control, as it is a very definite choice made by our government. And right now, what are we supposed to be in as a mode? Saving money, right? I mean, after all the talk about waste, how big a priority it's been, right? All that stuff about the economy and gas and groceries, that's kind of gone by the wayside, right? That's kind of gone. Immigration, they said they were going to round up 15 million. He's doing what he can. It's been uneven. But DOGE has been the big stopgap, right? Waste, fraud, and abuse. Everybody does it. Every administration does it. There are all kinds of agencies that do it. We're acting like Musk has discovered something new, but that's certainly the focus. Getting rid of veterans, right, who are employees, other employees, despite the federal government being the same size for decades, deciding we don't need to spend on most foreign aid. Programs to help poor schools are going to be compromised. People to oversee how various states provide for education for the poor and special needs kids. We're going to get rid of that. So what do we need? How about a new fighter jet? How about a new fighter jet that costs more than just about anything else I just mentioned? No way, right? No way, right? I mean, not with Trump. Certainly not with Trump. He's not going to cave to the war pimps, as a member of his party calls them. No, not Trump. Yes, Trump. Today, we learned the U.S. awarded Boeing a multi-billion-dollar contract to create a sixth-generation fighter jet. Did you know that there were 6 generations? The F-47. Oh, 47. I wonder what that's named. Oh, Trump. No wonder he likes it. Listen to him.
So we had a big day. We gave out the world's greatest fighter jet, by far, they say. I think in terms of every criteria known to man, it's the best. Now, that doesn't mean in 5 years it'll be good. It'll be totally obsolete in 5 years, I guess. But that's the way it works. But there's never been a plane designed or made like this, and we'll have them within about a 2-year period.
2-year period, huh? That's what they say, huh? 5 years, it's obsolete. You know what the startup cost is, like just to put out the door? You know what I mean? Just to hang the shingle, just to get it started? $20 billion. All we know about this fighter jet is that it can operate with a fleet of drones, okay, which is a new potential concern. Stealthy, fly longer than the F-35. Ah, yes, the F-35. You remember that? Trump pissed all over it as proof of how wasteful military spending can be. The F-35 was promised to change the game by them. All it changed is our debt structure. Lockheed originally said the entire program would cost $200 billion. Whew, that's something, right? It's all the foreign aid that they just canceled and won. The F-35 was touted as a more capable and affordable option. Guess what? The F-35 program is now over $2 trillion because of cost overruns and technical problems. I'm sure none of that will happen with the F-47. 200 to 2 trillion. And now they're doing another one when we're supposed to care about the debt so much that you'll cut all foreign aid because, after all, you got to take care of your own. But we need another fighter jet when you don't even know what the F-35 was supposed to be able to do. And this one, the F-47, is reportedly more expensive than the F-35. Again, $20 billion just to say, let's try it. The Air Force put the program for what's now called the F-47 to please Trump, which I'm sure had something to do with this. They put it on hold last year because each jet was going to cost at least, get ready for this, guess how much each? $300 million. Triple what the F-35 costs. Triple. You can't make it up. How do kids and poor countries lose, but these corporate folks always win? The total Pentagon budget in 2023 was what? $776 billion. We spend $50 billion a year on nuclear weapons, okay? You just spent a little less than half of that just to get this thing started. You spend $50 on nukes. Why are we afraid of North Korea, of what Iran is going to be, of China, of Russia? Nukes, not their fighter jets. But we spend $50 billion on that, 20 just to start this project. Trillions on a fighter jet that now we need a new one of. The DOJ budget is $46 billion. We spend $10 billion on the FBI. We're paying twice than what we pay for the whole FBI? When we have so many? Right now, 20 million people, including 600,000 kids, aren't receiving HIV treatment because Trump said we need to save money. How much was he paying for that? $7 billion a year. But 20 just to start for another kind of jet. I don't get it. What is great about this? I'll tell you what it's great for again. The rich contractors, right? It's great for them again. Is that what Trump wants to be about? Does he think that gets him on Rushmore? Spending a ridiculous amount of money on jets that we don't use? Abandoning people all over the globe for another fighter jet? Which really means you're doing it for Boeing, right? And the billionaire class of elitists that Trump was supposed to stop favoring over the rest of you. What are we about? What is our why? What is our code? What is our principle? Is this why Elon avoided the Defense Department in favor of other agencies that don't benefit him and Trump as much? I don't know, but this looks terrible. Now, Lenny, he had to try to upsell me. He had to. That's how he keeps his job. It was clear in his tone. It was clear in the insistence after I was telling him, stop it, stop it. What is motivating Trump to spend so much on something I can't even believe we need? Let me start with full disclosure. After close to 30 years in this business, and in law and finance before that, there is no doubt in my mind that culturally, politically, and systemically, workers have been left behind in America on purpose. We now make billionaires and broke people more than anything else. President Trump is now singing this song, but can he hold the tune? Hard to tell, because right now he has us in crazy town again. I don't care what team you're silly enough to support. That's where we all are. Crazy town. What is that? No clear path, no messaging, just madness and making it up as you go. That's crazy town. How else to describe our reality? We're now told that tariffs are part of an intricate strategy with many phases. The president just never bothered to explain it until after he did it, and the markets tanked. Well, we couldn't warn our enemies, his people tell me. But isn't that your posture if you're in an actual war, not a trade war? Almost all the players here are our allies, and you're supposed to pre-negotiate and explain the parameters and the targets and the specificity of tariffs, and most importantly, the duration. They did none of that here, and what they did do, they exaggerated. The math makes no sense. And even more dangerous is that they have not given an indication for how long, and that's why the markets tanked, okay? Messaging matters. We saw how much again today. This verified X account, whatever that means, named Walter Bloomberg, posts a headline that Trump's top economic advisor, Hassett, said that the president is considering a 90-day pause on tariffs. Traders erupt in cheers. CNBC goes with the story.
I think we can go with this headline. Apparently, Hassett's been saying that Trump will consider a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries except for China.
Except for China.
Oh, but that's huge. I mean, that changes the game.
Yeah, that changes things. You know why? Because that's not what he said.
Will you do a 90-day pause? Would you consider that?
Or Bill, yeah, you know, I think that the president is going to decide what the president's going to decide.
So how'd this happen? Well, first of all, Trump administration. You can't just go out on Fox. Most serious people don't watch it. You have to put your people out on all the different platforms when you want a message, especially if it's not going to be top down from the president. So as soon as the market went up on this news, it came crashing back down. This misinformation, and that's what it was, created a $4 trillion swing in the market. This is madness. Okay? This is not a way to get to a better place. Now, I get why the Trump folk are shy about the messaging here, okay? Right now, his guys sound like the Bernie bros. It's all about the working man all of a sudden and correcting how top-heavy all these corporations are. And if the markets go down while Trump gets other countries to take care of our working men and women, screw them. They've been at the trough long enough. Hey, amen. I smell what you're cooking. CEOs are now making 345 times the worker. In 1965, they made 20 times more. Why has that exponentially exploded where wages have not? So I'm fine with the message. I think it's grossly unfair that corporations get to distribute profits while their workers are subsidized by taxpayers. Billionaires shouldn't be growing more than everything else. But what's the problem? Well, until now, that message isn't new. It just wasn't coming from Trump. He dismissed it as socialist redistribution.
CEOs making nearly 400 times more than the average worker. Unheard of in American history.
He's going to tax you people at 90%. He's going to take everything. And nobody's heard the term communist. But you know what? I call him a socialist / communist, okay? Because that's what he is.
Okay? Here's what I know. I don't know where we're going to go. I'm going to talk to somebody who's much smarter than I am about that. But here's how we got here. The tariff gambit was always going to be, okay? How they did this was a closely held move. And now we know why. Because he knows he was going to meet resistance. He didn't even know that graph till he read it at that press conference. What likely happened here is Trump was pushing tariffs because he believes in the optics, no matter the economics. They make him look strong. He is fighting back. He is doing to them as they do to us. And that's why he did this. And as with everything else he does, if he's going to do it, he wants it to be the biggest, the most, the best. And that's why it's this crazy list and exaggerated notions of the tariffs. He didn't really consult the better business minds around him, which is why Musk may not be the only close advisor to leave because of this. Be aware. He also didn't warn the other countries. He also didn't warn us. So the markets cratered. Now his guys are trying, after the fact, to architect a plan. And they're leaning into helping the base, even if it sounds like they're bogarting the idea from Bernie. But justifying the idea is the least of their problems. So let's say they're right, and they did this because they want to bring back manufacturing. What manufacturing? They act as if America has none. You do know we are the second biggest producer of things behind China, right? You know that, right? So where is all this excess potential capacity going to come from? Why did Trump kill the CHIPS Act if he wanted to seed new information and technology jobs? Ah, yes, cheap politics. Right? Negating the past administration. So what is it, just about cars then? So we're going to reopen closed plants? How long does that take? 4 years? Who's going to pay? And who's going to work there? There are nearly 500,000 open manufacturing jobs in America right now. Why? Because we don't have zero capacity. We're at almost full capacity. We have open jobs. And where are you going to get them? With Trump chasing all the migrants out. You see? You can see how after the fact this analysis was. It doesn't make any sense based on their own prior actions. Wouldn't companies need to raise their workers' salaries to entice more to join up? What would that mean for prices? What, are we not price sensitive here anymore? Like Bill O'Reilly says, suck it up, get some discipline, pay more, buy less. That's what you want to do. And production these days is more about robotics than ever. So wouldn't there have to be a period of retraining? Are we set up for that? Why do you think we saw Apple say today they may leave China because of this, but they're not coming back here? They're thinking of going to India. This is about the bottom line for business. Trump has no good answers on any of these issues that need to be solved if he wants the tariff plan to be successful. But that's not what it is. He's hoping to never have to answer any of these questions because this is really a stunt to force other countries to the table, and hopefully soon, because he does not want to own a decline in the markets that creates a delevering event, which my buddy coming up will explain to you, which he cannot stop. This is the only huge market move we've seen downward in our lifetime that was man-made, meaning by one man, okay? Now, can he undo it? Yeah, but not for long. The EU hinted that they're open to coming to the table, but they're also getting ready to retaliate with 25% tariffs. So is China. Now he's threatening another 50% on China. Look, I get playing chicken, okay? I just don't like being in the middle of the two birds, which is where you and I are. So when all this pushback to the idea that this was for the working man came, like all these questions I was just asking, a second theory popped up. Oh, the tariffs are really, you know what they're about, is cheapening the lending environment, because that's what they'll do, and they'll make it easier for us to refinance our debt and pay down the deficit. Pretty good, right? Pretty good, right? Well, if the goal is to reduce the debt, why does Trump's budget add to the spending problems? Why isn't he insisting on a balanced budget amendment? Why did he cut the taxes for the rich and not pay for them if he's about cutting the debt? Oh, that's right, the tax cuts. Yeah, this is about that too. Now, here's a third explanation. Remember I said last week this was coming? Okay, the reporting has borne fruit. This is actually, what is the tariffs about? Manufacturing, yeah, making it cheaper to refine, doing to them what they, but it's really about raising revenue to extend the tax cuts. Who says that? Trump's main advisor.
Tariffs are tariffs, and they do raise revenues. They will. I see them as a tax cut, Andrew, because they're going to help pay for the biggest tax cut in American history.
Tax cut for whom, Brother Navarro? The problem is that the tariffs will be passed along. You got the tax word right, but it's not a cut. It's a regressive tax in the form of prices that will be paid by us, and disproportionately by the working man that they are supposedly designed to help. The tariffs are expected to cost the average American household $4 grand a year. Why? The bottom 90% spends nearly all their yearly income. The top 1% spends about 60%. That means that the working class gets hurt more than the rich, and Navarro knows it. And that is going to pay for the tax cuts? Oh, and then, so if the working class is going to pay for the tax cuts, okay. But then they get the tax benefit, right? For the extent, oh no, because the tax cuts help who? The studies have shown that the top 5% receive nearly half of the benefit from Trump's tax cuts. The bottom 80% gets less than a third. So you're paying disproportionately for the tariff, and you're getting a disproportionately low return on the taxes. Seriously? Something stinks here, doesn't it? And we see it in the reaction. Fox can put up all the Fugazi polls they want, that what he's doing is popular, maybe with their viewers. But the polls all together don't sample as many people as we saw in the streets in this country this weekend. Reports say nearly 100,000 turned out in D.C., 30,000 in Chicago, 25,000 in Boston, 20,000 in Atlanta, 10,000 in Denver. Nearly 20 blocks of Fifth Avenue in New York City filled with thousands of protesters. Small cities, too. 7,000 in Des Moines, 5,000 in Raleigh, 1,000 in Anchorage, Alaska. I guess they didn't get the message that this is all for them. Actually, we know they didn't get the message because Trump never delivered it. Now the real question is, will anyone believe it? We will see. I'm having a hard time. I don't know about you. I've rarely struggled as I have last couple of days on what to say tonight. So I'm going to come at it different ways, if you'll allow it. Good news is, today's my mother's birthday. So when I called her, I asked her what she wishes for us. And she said, what do you mean us? The family? I said, no, the country. And she looked at me like, this kid's still crazy. And then she gave me an answer. She said, I wish we had leaders who care more about our government. And I was surprised because my mother almost always gives a different answer whenever I ask her what matters about anything to do with humanity. So I prompted her. I said, Mom, what about la familia? And she said, oh, of course, family. That's our secret weapon. And I don't know that enough of us believe that anymore. Mama's right. The unique truth about America is that she only works if we tap into our interconnectedness and interdependence. Those are big words indicating a simple idea. Here, we have to care about one another. It is our only bond. We don't have homogeneity. We don't have common heritage or even really culture. What we have and what has made our greatness so durable is our ability to combine to magnified effect. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And the great news is we have so much more potential in America than I see anywhere else. I mean, if you think about it, we barely harness the potential of the largest portion of our population, women. Imagine where America could be when everyone is allowed, encouraged, and depended on to reach full potential. But right now, all we can do is imagine that, because we are so desperate to drag ourselves away from greatness, from progress, from each other. And that is what I see that really bothers me. And the reaction and the lack of reaction to the second attempt on Trump in the last couple of months. Oh, but the guy didn't even shoot. What if it was your father? Or what if it was Kamala Harris or President Biden? God forbid. You think that it would be almost a shoulder shrug and more of talk about the Secret Service and allocation of funds than just how crazy it is that this is what's happening in our country? That reaction of, well, come on, don't make too much of it. He had an AK-47 pointed at him. The reaction is unacceptable. And it's the second time media and political players have gotten away with playing down what should be a cause for panic. Elon Musk, I'm a believer in this guy's potential, okay? Now, he hasn't learned that erasing a tweet doesn't make it go away. It only shows that he knows what he said was stupid. And that is what hinting about targeting Harris is. It's stupid. I know he's a genius. I don't care if he's autistic. What he said is stupid. And it's a nod to what gets too much energy from all of us. Elon Musk could be leading the way to a better dialogue in our society. I don't know why he's undercutting his own significance with these cheap shots. I want to work with him. I believe in his platform. I believe in him, but not in what he's doing. But maybe he's just like the rest of us. It's so intoxicating. It's so contagious, the negativity. We need our leaders to step up and start being rewarded for stepping up and doing the right thing. Both of those things matter. A mentor and friend sent me a piece that posited that the solution to the division in our society is to split it. Never. It would never work, and it can never be. Patrick Henry had it right. Maybe it was him. Maybe he borrowed it from Aesop. It doesn't matter. United we stand, divided we fall. And it is even more true today. And this gets clouded by the fact that division gets you paid. Division gets you clicks. Division gets you a following. Division, especially in digital media, is absolutely the way to get known. So the blame for the dynamic is everywhere. On the right, far right, for sure. But just as troubling to me, and no, it is not false equivalency. My brothers and sisters, I got nobody to impress, okay? I'm not joining any team. I'm not looking for a following. I'm not looking for fans. I tell people to take a hike on a regular basis. I'm just telling you how I see it as somebody who has been studying us for a quarter century in this gig. It is just as troubling to me to hear about fake stories of eating cats and dogs as it is to hear fake concern by our sitting president and almost nothing from the Democrat who wants to lead us about what happened with Trump. We don't condone violence. Who says that? What does that even mean? You don't dismiss trivial pursuits of violence? Okay, who would? We need a lot more than that right now. We need reason to believe in who we are at our best, and we are starved of that. Instead, we're talking about the Secret Service, who by most accounts did an excellent job this time. And you should talk about how they're funded and why they're not giving them more security, better security. But that's not what matters most here. There's a reason mentally ill or deranged or whatever it winds up being classified as, that these types of people are picking up on all the hostility. It's not enough to call it out and say it's wrong. I get that now. Being a scold does nothing. You have to just do your best to be the change you want to see, as Gandhi credited us. So, after waiting for a real message, looking around the media, being disappointed again, that everybody just wants to kind of parse out, who's to blame? Who's to blame? I mean, don't you think that you should, and don't you think that you should, and nobody's doing this. But this is the only thing that's going to change it. Okay? And look, I hear what Trump is saying. Trump blames the Democrats and their attacks on him as a threat to democracy for the violence directed toward him. He then says that they are the real threats to democracy. So if it's wrong that they're threatening him that way by calling him that, why would he call them that? We need better. And I keep seeing use of the word hate everywhere in our politics. Trump hates Taylor Swift. Democrats hate him, want him eliminated. So, here's what I did. I didn't know what to say. I kept going through drafts, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. It wasn't even landing right with me. So I called former President Trump. And I didn't ask him any questions. I didn't go after him about his role. I just wanted to know how his family's taking this. Because I grew up like that. I grew up worried about who was going to try to hurt my father. And I told you a story last week that I remember this day. I was 7, 8 years old, okay? And I remember him jumping off that stage in some ugly houndstooth blazer and running up the front of an auditorium because someone had thrown a pie at a coconut shell at Abe Beam, who was mayor, and Bella Abzug, who was running for mayor. She used to wear these big, beautiful hats. And my father's on the stage with them in this mayoral debate or discussion, whatever. He got killed. He lost so many elections before he won one. And the guy throws the thing, and my father jumps off the stage and goes running up, throws him on the ground, holds him down. I was so scared. And you can think what you want about Trump. He does not have many more full-throated critics of what he says and does than me, okay? And yet I called him today because I am ashamed of how we are responding and not responding to the threats on him. And I feel for his family. And I know you can roll your eyes and say, oh, yeah, he asked for it. Listen, that's your choice, and I think it's a wrong choice, okay? We got to get out of the judgment business unless it's judging ourselves, and you got to start rewarding things that are better. And I got to tell you, I don't know how he stays in the race. I don't know how he got up after being shot in the head, and you people who try to mitigate that, you need to check yourself. He gets up, pumping his fist, stays in the race, barely even talks about it. Now, look, I do believe he has wasted opportunities, and he has another one now. Who better than Trump to say, we can do better? I can do better. I know he keeps doubling down on his angry rhetoric. How can he not? It keeps working for him. I don't know that it gets him elected. My theory is that he needs to expand. He had a chance to do it after he was the target of an assassination at the RNC. He had a chance to say, I know what got me here. It's not going to get me where I want us to be. He did not take that chance. He now has another chance. Oh, you're supporting Trump. I'm supporting us. The idea that I am a Trump supporter is laughable to the man on your screen right now. That is not what this is. I am worried about us. I am ashamed of what's happening around us right now and the relative lack of concern about it. I just don't see how we get anywhere better than where we are right now. Look, I'm not blaming Democrats. I'm really not. I blame the guy. And whatever disease he has that the people around him either knew about and did nothing about. The guy was arrested 20 years ago for barricading himself in a room with all these weapons. Where are we caring about one another? Where are we taking care of our own? Where are we pushing to get help? We're leaving people languishing, dying on the streets. What is going on with us? I don't get it. That's why I reached out to Trump. I wanted to just say, listen, I'm really sorry that this is going on and it's being dealt with this way. Not because I'm in favor of his politics or what he says. I criticize him all the time. That's my job, and he deserves it. But he doesn't deserve this. A guy pointing an AK-47 at him while he's playing golf? And we take solace in the fact that the guy didn't get any rounds off. That does not work for me. If I had been through what that guy's been through in the last 2 months, you would not know where I am. You would never see me on TV again. No way I would do that. I don't know how he does it. He's got kids, they're adults, but he's got grandkids. He's got a wife. People giving crap to Melania Trump, worrying about whether or not there was a plot around his husband. How could she not? I don't think she's right, but I totally get why she feels that way, and people mock her. And then her husband has a guy pointed with an AK-47. Where are those people apologizing? That's what it's time for. I should not have come at you, Melania Trump, for suggesting that maybe there was something more afoot. I get your paranoia. I get your feelings. You have a right to that. There's nothing wrong with saying that, with being a basic, decent human being. It has gotten too out of control, too far from where we need to be and how we need to be. And I don't know what to do about it. I don't know. So this is the last thing. This was the best I could do. All right? And of course, the prompter operator helped me out by, of course, scrolling past what I want for. Anyway, U2 has a song, Two Hearts Beat as One. It's from one of their earliest albums, War. Okay? I don't know what's got to be said. I don't know if it's black or white. There's some that see red. I don't get the answers right. I leave that to you. Is this love out of fashion, or is it the time of year? Are these words distraction to the words you want to hear? U2 was singing about, troubled relationships in their lives, but also about the reunification of Germany. And when I did the research and I looked at the lyrics, it really hit me. We are playing a dangerous game with ourselves, and we're doing it for petty stakes. And this can be broken. What we have can be broken. And no, not by Trump. He is not a despot in waiting. Okay? I don't buy it. And no, not by Harris. She is not a communist just because socialist isn't enough, so you had to ramp it up to Marxist to communist, but then you went back to communist because nobody knows what a Marxist is. It's because of what we're allowing ourselves to become en masse, and it will spread. I know that you don't feel connection to it in your life. I know. I know you shouldn't, because our communities are strong, our people are strong, we care about one another. But there is a top-down phenomenon, and it is corroding us. It shouldn't be that more Trump supporters were asking me yesterday whether or not I think he's going to win than what happened with this guy with the AK-47. We've got to care about one another, even if you don't like, or agree, or actively oppose. Fine, do all of those things. But we cannot forget our human decency. You got to care when somebody tries to kill somebody. I've told you this before, and I've learned the lesson so many times myself around the world. Either you care when anyone is hurt, or you'll never really care about anyone being hurt. And that's where we are. You can oppose, you cannot vote, you can dislike everything about, you can condemn the words. But you got to remember our interconnectedness. You got to remember that if we're not like this in this country, and I'm not saying thick as thieves, I'm not saying you got to walk around hugging and kissing everybody. Keep asking me why I call everybody brother, because I'm trying to suggest that we matter to each other, even if we disagree. I think U2 has it right. It's not black and white. People are going to see things different ways. But you have to be pushing us towards a better place. That is all that matters. And every moment it doesn't happen, every moment of opportunity, like what we just had, there's an opportunity in somebody trying something as screwed up as what this guy tried with Trump. For us to condemn what is wrong and embrace what is right. Where are our leaders? Where are the people who want to be at the head, showing what we are at our best? You tell me, because I do not have the answers, but I see the problem, and so should you.